KJA Global Channel. The Political System and Me. Series 4. The Political System Across Every Sector of Society. Episode 52. Diaspora and International Networks. Advocacy, Funding Integrity, and Legitimacy. There is a strange kind of pain that begins when a person leaves the homeland. You do not stop loving it. You may love it even more. But love becomes heavier because distance changes responsibility. You wake up in safety, while your heart remains with people living in danger. You earn money, yet feel guilty because others cannot. You have access to information, but every headline can feel like a wound. You speak with freedom abroad, while friends at home may still need to whisper. One part of life breathes. Another part burns. This is the diaspora condition. In our era, diaspora communities are not only families living abroad. They can become political voice, financial power, international connection, public witness, and strategic national capacity. This is where our question begins. When diaspora influence grows, does it become disciplined public service, or another unaccountable center of power? This subject reaches daily life before many people have language for it. A family sends money home. A community raises funds for medicine or education. An advocacy group meets a parliament, a ministry, a United Nations mechanism, or an international media organization. A public claim is made in the name of people who may never have authorized it. Diaspora action can be life-saving. It can also become harmful when mandate, representation, transparency, compliance, beneficiary protection, conflict of interest, and public reporting are ignored. So this episode is not only praise. It is responsibility. It is a civic mirror. This episode is about diaspora and international networks, advocacy, funding integrity, and legitimacy. A revolution, a democratic transition, and a nation's moral standing in the world all depend on whether diaspora power becomes disciplined public service. Diaspora influence without integrity becomes noise. Diaspora money without accountability becomes poison. Diaspora advocacy without legitimacy becomes propaganda. But diaspora leadership with discipline can become a national asset of historic power. The diaspora is not outside the nation. It is part of the nation's bloodstream. Modern borders do not limit national influence. Diaspora is therefore not only sentimental. Diaspora is strategic. But strategy without discipline becomes chaos. The system reveal is diaspora advocacy, funding integrity, and legitimacy. The diaspora is a strategic national extension, and exiles are often feared because they carry voice, access, mobility, and international connection. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is this. Diaspora power becomes legitimate only when voice, money, representation, and international access are governed by integrity. Funding integrity matters because money must not become a second corruption system. Legitimacy is the currency of power abroad, and integrity is its discipline. Diaspora power must therefore be organized ethically. Dictatorships fear diaspora communities because diaspora communities can speak beyond domestic censorship. They can document abuses, connect with international institutions, raise resources, support displaced people, and sustain national memory. But advocacy is powerful only when it is disciplined. Advocacy is not only posting. Advocacy is not only protest. Advocacy is not only emotional speech. Serious advocacy asks a harder question. What exactly do we want an institution, government, donor, court, company, or international body to do, and why would that action help? A credible advocacy request identifies the decision-maker, the requested action, the legal or moral basis, the evidence, the affected people, the likely consequences, and the safeguards against unintended harm. Diaspora funding is often life-saving. It can support humanitarian relief, education, health care, documentation, civic organizing, cultural preservation, legal assistance, media, and democratic institution building. But if diaspora funding lacks accountability, it can become a shadow system that destroys trust and unity. Money can create dependency. It can reward loyalty instead of need. It can produce hidden hierarchies, private influence, duplicated projects, unsafe transfers, false reporting, and competition between organizations that claim to serve the same public. Diaspora funding must therefore become a model of democratic integrity. Integrity is not an administrative burden. It is a weapon against dictatorship because it proves that public service can operate differently from corruption, secrecy, and fear. International politics runs on legitimacy. Legitimacy is not only moral, it is operational. International partners ask practical questions. Who represents whom? How is that authority obtained? Are the claims documented? Are the funds lawful and traceable? Are leaders stable, accountable, and capable of cooperation? Are beneficiaries protected? Can commitments be trusted? Diaspora groups must treat legitimacy as sacred. Legitimacy opens doors. Scandal closes doors. Diaspora leadership must therefore be trained not only in passion, but in legitimacy management. That includes governance, compliance, financial controls, evidence, communications, safeguarding, coalition building, diplomacy, and responsible public representation. International networks can include civil society organizations, universities, professional associations, trade unions, humanitarian agencies, media, parliaments, governments, courts, donors, foundations, and United Nations mechanisms. These networks should strengthen national self-determination, not replace it. International access should expand the people's agency, not create a new class of unelected intermediaries who speak permanently in their place. Diaspora unity is not sameness. Diaspora unity is shared purpose under agreed rules. People can disagree about strategy, ideology, organization, timing, and leadership, but they can still agree on truthfulness, civilian protection, non-discrimination, financial integrity, public accountability, and democratic legitimacy. To understand diaspora and international networks, follow the public money chain. Revenue, budget, procurement, contract, service or outcome, audit, public report and correction. Each link asks a different accountability question. Revenue asks where the money came from, under what legal conditions, and with what donor restrictions. Budget asks who approved the priorities and how need was assessed. Procurement asks how goods, services, or partners were selected. Contract asks what was promised, at what price, under what standard, and with what safeguards. Service or outcome asks what actually reached the intended people. Audit asks whether the records, controls, and results were independently examined. Public report and correction ask what was disclosed, what failed, what was repaired, and who was held responsible. A broken outcome may begin far upstream. Visible harm may appear as missing medicine, unsafe aid, abandoned beneficiaries, a false public claim, or a project that never reaches the community. But the deeper failure may be an unlawful funding source, an undisclosed conflict of interest, a hidden transfer, weak sanctions screening, a captured reviewer, an unsafe beneficiary list, or a complaint process that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing a system failure to one personality. It identifies where law, capacity, evidence, oversight, finance, safeguarding, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals can locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is diaspora advocacy, funding integrity, and legitimacy. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and must label country-specific, interim, or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, diaspora and international networks are shaped by concentrated command and fear. Information is restricted, institutions answer upward, independent fundraising may be criminalized, international contact may be treated as disloyalty, and families at home may face retaliation. The dictatorship may also create its own overseas networks to spread propaganda, monitor communities, divide opposition, influence institutions, and disguise state interests as community representation. In a fragile democracy, formal rules may exist while patronage, unequal capacity, corruption, politicization, weak compliance, or poor enforcement make protection inconsistent. Organizations may publish policies, but fail to keep reliable records. Leaders may claim broad representation without a clear mandate. Donor restrictions may be poorly understood. Complaints may be handled internally by the same people whose conduct is being questioned. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is constitutionally distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and more than one institution can question, review, or correct harmful power. Diaspora organizations can operate under clear law, disclose governance, protect donors and beneficiaries, comply with tax and banking rules, submit to independent review, and participate in public debate without claiming ownership of the nation. The label alone proves nothing. Actual performance must be tested. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether accurate advocacy and protection of legitimacy exist in practice. A democratic answer to diaspora and international networks must be designed, funded, staffed, reviewed, and corrected. The minimum guardrails are these. 1. Lawful fundraising and regulatory compliance. Organizations should understand charity, tax, banking, anti-money laundering, sanctions, foreign agent, data protection, and reporting requirements in every jurisdiction where they operate. 2. Transparent donor and beneficiary records. Records should show where money came from, what restrictions apply, how decisions were made, what reached beneficiaries, and how sensitive identities are protected. 3. Conflict of interest and sanctions screening. Leaders, staff, suppliers, partners, and major transactions should be screened for personal interest, prohibited relationships, coercion, diversion, and legal risk. 4. Independent financial review and complaints. Accounts, procurement, transfers, and serious allegations should be reviewable by people who are not controlled by the same leadership whose conduct is under examination. 5. Accurate advocacy and protection of legitimacy. Public claims should distinguish verified fact, credible allegation, analysis, uncertainty, and political aspiration. Representation should never be exaggerated, and the safety of people inside the country must not be sacrificed for visibility abroad. These safeguards work as a system. A published rule without an independent reviewer can become theater. Oversight without records cannot see. Participation without safety can expose people. Financial compliance without beneficiary protection can still produce harm. And a remedy without enforcement does not repair the damage. Global relevance. Across political labels, ask who decides, what limits power, what information is public, who participates, who is protected, and whether real correction or remedy exists. Myanmar relevance. Apply this lesson without treating one organization, community, authority, network, or proposed arrangement as the whole country. Separate existing law and institutions from interim systems, humanitarian arrangements, local practices, political commitments, and aspirational federal designs. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. If you support a cause from abroad, ask whether its mandate, funding, public claims, and accountability are clear. Ask who authorized the organization to speak, who benefits, who carries the risk, and who can challenge a decision. Verify. Examine governance documents, donor restrictions, bank and tax requirements, sanctions screening, financial reports, beneficiary safeguards, and conflict disclosures. Distinguish public messaging from verified institutional practice. Act. Complete a diaspora integrity check covering mandate, authority, donor rules, banking, reporting, conflicts, beneficiaries, safeguarding, and public claims. Identify one professional improvement and one institutional improvement. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. Where public action is unsafe, complete the exercise privately and preserve no identifying information that could expose another person. A diaspora movement must behave like the future democracy it wants to build. That is the ultimate test. The world is watching. The next generation is watching. If diaspora organizations become corrupt, young people learn that corruption is normal. If diaspora organizations become divided by ego and secrecy, young people learn that unity is impossible. If diaspora organizations become disciplined, transparent, and accountable, young people learn that democracy is real. My freedom abroad is not only my comfort. It is my duty. My money is not only charity. It is trust. My voice is not only expression. It is representation. And representation requires legitimacy. The principle to carry forward is this. The diaspora is a strategic national extension. Exiles are feared because they carry voice and access. Ask yourself, what part of diaspora advocacy and funding integrity have I treated as normal, even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? Public money is public trust. In the next episode, we continue with culture and national memory, arts, identity, and the national story. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe, learn, participate, shape the future. KJA, knowledge justifies authority.